Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome once again to the Kenton Theatre here in Henley. Now, after almost a month of continuous sessions, we finally arrived at the final day of the 2020 FIPP Congress and Digital Innovators Summit. Thank you all so much for being with us throughout the event. A reminder that immediately following this session, we will be broadcasting some closing remarks from the UK Minister for Exports, Graham Stewart MP, and that is followed by the Congress closing session, a panel interview with Tom Bureau, Linda Thomas-Brooks and Nikolai Malyarov, who will be summing up what we can expect from the year ahead. Now, it's a tradition that during the FIPP Congress, we announce the winners of the FIPP UPM Rising Stars in Media Awards, and this year is no exception. These awards, now in their 6th year, are the premier celebration of new and emerging talent in our industry, and we're delighted to bring them to you once again. A little later, Charlotte and I will be interviewing our overall winners, but for the minute, let's get on with the presentation. And I need my clicker so that I can advance things along. So if we could press play and then we can, at the top.
Let's get this technology sorted.
Okay, there we go. So what you can see there is our winner from last year, Mbali Soga, who spent the year on the FIPP board with Ruud van den Berg of UPM, and that was the presentation of last year's Rising Stars Awards at the FIPP Congress in Las Vegas. Normally, of course, we would be doing this live on stage at the FIPP Congress, but because of coronavirus, we're not able to do that this year, so we're having to do a virtual presentation. Nevertheless, we will be interviewing all of the winners throughout the course of the next 6 months, and as soon as we are able to run physical events again, we will get them on stage to receive their trophies in person. But for the time being, here is the revelation of who has won this year's awards. First of all, a little word about the format.
I was doing a drum roll.
I was doing a drum roll. Yeah, we're going to do a drum roll in a minute. So we've got a few to introduce. We've got 3 categories: the business category, the journalism category, and the new student category. We've split the main awards into business and journalism awards for the first time to reflect the enormous breadth of entries that we've been getting over the last few years. And we've added the new student category to reflect the fact that we now have a large number of academic institutions as part of our membership. We also award each year a company award at the discretion of the judges, and we do, of course, give our thanks to our judges. We had 8 of them drawn from the business worlds and from academia, including FIPP board members and members of some of the most prestigious universities in the world, and we thank them for the time and effort that they took to judge these awards. In each of the business and journalism categories, there'll be 3 winners and 3 highly commended. And then there is, of course, 1 overall winner, or is there? Or is there more than 1 this year for the first time? And of course, the overall winner or winners get seats on the FIPP board for 1 year. They get the chance to network with some of the leading figures in the industry, and of course, to influence the direction of both FIPP and the publishing industry for the year ahead. In a new development as well, we're going to extend those seats on the FIPP board for 2 years for the previous year's winner, for Mbali, and for the winners this year, so that they get the opportunity to network in more detail, in more depth with our FIPP board members because of the lack of physical meetings. So let's crack on with the awards. Now, first of all, a word about our partnership with UPM. UPM has been a partner of FIPP for a number of years, and they've been a partner of these awards since the very beginning. We're entering the 6th year of our partnership around the Rising Stars with UPM, and they have been fantastic partners for us throughout the entirety of these awards. Ruud van den Berg was one of the judges for this year's event. I know that he believes it's a very important part of UPM's partnership with FIPP, and we thank him and everybody at UPM for their support, and I know that they'll be in touch with some of the winners after the event to get their views on the industry for the benefit of UPM's partners and suppliers. So thank you very much to UPM for being a part of this once again. We really do appreciate all of your support. So on to this year's winners. Starting with the company award. This year, the judges decided once again to make a company award reflecting the breadth and depth of talent submitted by one of our individual companies that have made entries for this year's award. And I'm delighted to say that for a record 4th year in a row, the company award goes to, now you can do a drum roll,
I'm here for the drum
River
roll.
Group. Congratulations to everybody at River Group. I know there's many of you watching today. Your trophy will be in the post to you very, very soon, and we'll try to do a little presentation ceremony for you. But this is a reflection, once again, of the quality and depth of the entries that we received from the River Group. So congratulations to Nikki and all of her team down there in London. Very well done. So let's move on to the Business Award. We have 3 highly commended to award for the Business Award, and they are Cara Gilmartin from Forbes, Nicholas O'Connor from America Economica, and Emily Maitland from the River Group. Congratulations to all of you. You'll be receiving certificates. Very well done for that. Thank you. Round of applause for them. And our winners for the business category are...
Sorry, James.
Esther Kezia-Thorpe from Media Voices, Selena Bitzer from Condé Nast, and Hiten Vara from Immediate Media. Well done to all of you. Let's have a round of applause in the studio for all of our winners. Very well done. So that was the business category, reflecting people who work in leadership, sales, marketing, and so on. And for this year, of course, we split the overall awards into 2 categories. So we have the second of those here, which is the Journalism Awards. We had a fantastic range of entries once again here from some of the great young journalists in our industry. And we have, once again, some highly commended to award, and they go to, small drum roll, Gershine Gallen from Nation Next, Niamh Leonard Bedwell from River Group, and Helen Clifford from ITN. Well done to the 3 of you. Once again, you'll be receiving your certificates in the post very soon. Congratulations to all of you. Now on to our winners for the Journalism Award. They are, drum roll, please, last one.
Thanks, guys.
Rachel Brown from National Geographic, Catherine Edwards from the Local Europe, and Adama Munu from TRT World in Turkey. Congratulations to all 3 of you. Now, on to our overall winners. Oh, sorry, Student Award first. I forgot about Student Award.
Students.
The new Student Award. We had a couple of entries here, and the judges decided to award 1 highly commended and 1 overall winner. The highly commended award for their fantastic multimedia project involving media and the arts was, in Portugal, the University of Porto. Congratulations,
Hey.
University of Porto. Well done to all of you. And that course, certificate winging its way to you. And the winners of the student category, reflecting the fantastic amount of work they put into this project and the incredibly innovative approach they took, was Dark Mode magazine from the University of Roehampton. Well done to you guys. Trophy and interview to follow. Now, every year we have to pick an overall winner. This year, the quality of entries was incredibly high, and we should say that the range of scores for the winners and highly commended was incredibly tight, much tighter than it normally is, and I think that reflects the overall quality of the entries that we received. Nevertheless, we had to pick an overall winner, but in the end, we couldn't separate the winners in the business and journalism category, so we decided for the first time ever that we would have 2 overall winners. We would have from the business category, Esther Kezia-Thorpe, and from the journalism category, Rachel Brown. And I'm delighted that both of them are going to join us now to talk a little bit about their careers and the path that has led them to win this award. So congratulations to you both. Let's give them a round of applause. We stop the screen share, we can start. So let's start with you, Rachel, and Charlotte's going to lead off on this.
Rachel, congratulations. I'm curious, did you know you were being nominated?
I did not. No, I had no idea.
So when was the first you heard about it?
A few days ago, actually.
You told that you'd won the award, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, and what did you think?
I was pretty surprised. I was actually very surprised. I went and looked at some of the past winners, and just really honored to be among their company.
And first, I want to say thank you so much for joining us, because what time is it with you? About 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
We're so sorry. We're so sorry it's 3
Really?
o'clock in the morning.
Pleased to be here.
Huge entertainment, so thank you so much for being here with us. So how did you, well, first of all, why did you get into journalism, and how did you get into journalism?
Sure. I've been a writer my entire life. I've always really enjoyed the craft and how it's able to connect you to people. And when I began kind of in college figuring out what career path that might take, I was also doing a lot of oral history work at the time. I was an anthropology student. So to me, journalism seemed like a really good way to use my writing in order to kind of be connected to a community and talk to people and be able to tell stories. Yeah, so I think that it can go hand in hand with a creative writing practice, but journalism was where I chose to dedicate my professional efforts. Yeah, and then I was very lucky to have mentors who kind of guided me towards being able to enter the career, and have guided me since my entering the career.
And obviously, I mean, getting a gig on National Geographic, it's kind of a dream job, isn't it? How did that come about?
A lot of hard work and a great deal of luck. Susan Goldberg, the editor-in-chief, had attended my college to present a talk on journalism and digital media. And a mentor of mine at college who knew that I was really interested in National Geographic as a brand, who knew that I was interested in journalism. He was a really great mentor in making sure that I was able to attend a dinner after the talk featuring Susan, giving her the chance to speak with students and faculty in my college. And Susan, very much to her credit, this was my first impression of her, made sure to sit down at the student table and talked with all of us individually, had a really great conversation, and I was able to grab her business card and follow up afterwards. And it happened that a assistant position had opened up at Nat Geo. So I applied for that and kind of came in as an admin role. In my time there, I've worked as an admin while I was also reporting and writing stories. I've worked as a producer on the really talented producer team at Nat Geo, which helps distribute our stories on third-party platforms. And yeah, my current role, which I've been in for a few years, is on the travel team. So I was very lucky not only to get in the door and have people who supported me getting in the door, but just really lucky in being able to work in a number of different positions at Nat Geo.
And working in the travel section, how has that changed since COVID-19? How's your job changed since COVID-19?
My job has changed drastically. Yeah, it's very difficult to cover travel when people aren't and shouldn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've had several editorial adjustments over the course of the pandemic, and it's definitely a credit to my entire team that we've been able to kind of reposition not just once, but every month or so as things change. So initially at the beginning of the pandemic, we were very much covering, okay, here's how you can get home if you're traveling. You know, here are the kind of ins and outs of how you're able to do that, what the travel industry is experiencing at large. And since the beginning of the pandemic, we've also shifted to focus on kind of the local impacts in destinations around the world, including in the US. So we've had some really strong stories covering how the loss of tourism has impacted some communities, and in the United States, how increased tourism in some places is impacting communities during pandemic. So we very much shifted to kind of bring in some of the expertises of our colleagues across Nat Geo when it comes to environmental reporting and some of the other science reporting aspects that Nat Geo is known for. So it's definitely been a big adjustment, but I think our team has definitely succeeded in pivoting that way.
Sure. And I know obviously you've written about a huge range of subjects. What piece of work are you most proud of?
That's difficult. I work as a writer and as an editor, so I'm going to cheat and give you two answers. The piece that I'm proudest of as a writer is probably one that I did a couple months ago. I was really lucky during the pandemic to be able to move from DC, where Nat Geo is based, to Tucson, where I am now, which is why it's 3 in the morning. But yeah, I was really lucky to have the support of my colleagues in my company in doing that, and I was able to. I took a 4-day road trip in a box truck with all of my worldly possessions across the states in order to do that. Yeah, so I reported during that trip, stopped in a few cities, spoke with some locals there, and ended up being able to do what was kind of a personal challenge for me in writing a travelogue, personal essay, reported hybrid piece that I worked pretty hard on and was very proud of. So for writing, that would be my answer. For editing, I think this year has definitely presented me with a lot of opportunities to tell stories that I might not have been able to focus my time on before. We've done a lot of work in the past year in including diversity and inclusion and equity very much in our kind of editorial ethos. And so there's a couple stories that I've reported on that have just kind of talked about issues of folks of color in national parks, which is my area, my beat within the team. So yeah, I don't think that I could pick one in particular, but I'm really proud of having pushed our coverage in that direction.
Sure, and talking about being proud of your work, I mean, there's so much negativity about journalism these days in terms of misinformation and fake news. How do you ensure that you get to the truth of a story?
I do the best that I can. I think that just having really quality writers up front, establishing relationships like as an assigning editor with writers who are local to their communities, who have experiences that inform their expertise, being able to make sure that you're really picking the right person for the story, somebody who's able to get access to folks who might have different perspectives on an issue or might be able to reveal truths that might go a little hidden in other contexts. I think that is something I'm definitely focusing on this year. I also think that we have several community employee access groups at Nat Geo, kind of employee affinity groups for Latinx folks, for Black Americans, for LGBTQ folks. And I'm quite active in those, and they have sort of started to shift to serve as content advisors in the last year. So folks who have lived experiences that provide expertises that can inform a story. Our own colleagues are resources for that. So we're definitely making an effort not only to connect to those writers and sources who are able to tell the truth, but also working with our colleagues to make sure that we're understanding and representing that truth in an accurate way.
Sure. And I've got a question actually from the audience, which is, which writers inspire you?
That's an excellent question. There are a number of journalists that I follow and folks whose work I am really digging into and really enjoying. There's just such a high quality of writers who work for National Geographic, not only as digital reporters, but for the magazine as well. I think Renee Ebersole would probably be one of them. I read a story of hers that she had written for the Wildlife Watch desk, which reports on wildlife issues, trafficking issues, and I was just really interested in it. It was a story about ginseng hunting in Appalachia and how it's kind of connected to this international black market for this kind of unobtrusive little root that just kind of grows in the weeds. And I read that story. I was really interested in it, and I've had the opportunity to work with her on a story about an invasive species in national parks. So I really enjoy her work, but I also read very deeply and widely in poetry and other kind of creative works, fiction writers, personal nonfiction writers. So we'd be here for a long time if I started listing those folks, but I do think that reading widely in a variety of genres is one of the things that's helped inform my job.
And any particular future projects? It's something you're working on at the moment. You can give us a little insight into what we can look forward to reading.
Sure. Actually, a story that's coming in a couple days is one that I'm pretty proud of. A good friend and colleague on my team, who's a photo editor, she and I have been kind of bouncing back and forth an idea of, how can we tell within the travel space the story of Confederate monuments in the United States and how travel is involved with that. Because some of the monuments are just statues on street corners that are easily kind of removed in the middle of the night or, sites of protest, but there are also places that are definite tourist attractions. So what's going on there? And she and I discussed Stone Mountain in Georgia, which is a massive 3-acre sculpture in a mountain in this beautiful area, natural park in Georgia. And it's just outside of Atlanta. And the photo editor, she is from the area and was able to help me connect with a really good writer. We've got a local photographer who did some beautiful assignment photography for the story. So in the process of editing that, it's hopefully coming out shortly. I think it's a really good look at how local issues can illustrate national issues, and how tourists can start asking themselves the questions of, what does their participation in these spaces, what does that mean?
And what advice would you give to anyone wanting to become a journalist?
That's a difficult one. I think I might give them the advice that I was given, which is to really just kind of read widely and listen widely and be open to asking questions, but also be open to making mistakes. So this year especially has been a year of crises up and down the board, and they're all impacting each other in new and excitingly horrifying ways. So there's definitely been kind of a sea change, at least in my understanding of what a journalist's work entails, and should do. And in trying to kind of meet those goals, I've definitely made mistakes in editing stories and writing stories, which, you can't always correct, although you should make every effort to. But having made those mistakes and then being able to speak to mentors, speak to colleagues, really use them as moments of learning and growth. I think that I'm just starting to get to the point in my career where I know what I don't know, and I'm really excited to keep kind of learning from folks who have done those things before me.
Sure. And speaking of learning, we're hoping that you're going to bring some of your experience and youth to the FIPP board. So I was saying, thank God for some young blood at FIPP. It's a good thing, isn't it? So have you got any ideas of what you will bring to the board?
I'm really excited to learn, first and foremost. I'm hoping that I am able to contribute in some way, but I am very much excited to kind of meet with everybody who's on the board and learn their backgrounds and interests. I think one particular interest that I would hope to bring is seeing how a very locally informed perspective can influence coverage, or can influence coverage even on a national or international scale. I think that's something that's quite important to me, and I'm interested to hear others' thoughts on it.
Great, thank you. Again, thank you so much for being up in the middle of the night to speak to us.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
Congratulations, and yeah, we look forward to working with you as part of it. Thank you very much. Cheers, Rachel.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks so much for being part of the panel, and congratulations again on your award. But we're going to turn now to Esther. Congratulations, Esther. Well done on winning this award. Just tell everybody, what does it mean for you to be one of our Rising Stars overall winners?
I think it's a real honour, because I mean there are so many brilliant people doing brilliant things in the industry, but I think for me especially it's quite special to be recognised as part of the Media Voices team, and to be able to kind of enter that as a proper business now, because I've built this with Peter Houston and Chris Sutcliffe over the last 4 years, but as well as being a huge honour, it is also a recognition of the team behind me, and then obviously it's a huge honour to share with Rachel Brown at National Geographic, and just hearing her talk about her work just then, it's a real honour to be sharing the platform with such a brilliant journalist.
You mentioned that you're part of Media Voices. Obviously, you do podcasting and the very successful Podcast Awards that launched last year, which was a major factor in winning the award. How did that come about? How did your involvement with Media Voices come about?
It came about, Peter actually gave me a call probably back in 2016 just to say that in the good old days when the media briefing was still around, they had a room for a writer on their very small team. It was the media briefing who owned Agri Briefing at the time, and Agri Briefing is now grown to be its own business. So they did conferences, they did the British Media Awards, and I launched the Media Briefing podcast alongside Chris Sutcliffe there as a part of our editorial proposition. The Media Briefing sadly got sold to Haymarket, I think back in 2017. They shut down the editorial side, so Chris and I kind of negotiated to make off with the podcast. We rebranded it as Media Voices, and we brought Peter on board. And we then kind of went our separate ways. It was very much a side project, so we were doing it, we still do it Sunday mornings, but it was very much we were doing it in our spare time. I went to work at Dennis Publishing, so I'd say it probably bumbled along for a year or two. And then last year we kind of sat down and we were like, right, we actually want to make something quite serious of it. You know, we're talking to people all the time about how they've got these audiences and they've got these niche media businesses and are putting these lessons into practice. So we thought we probably need to actually start doing that. One of the things lots of brands use to monetize their brands is awards. And we thought, well, we're actually in this quite unique space where we're a podcast ourselves. We speak to loads of people in the media and publishing industry, and there's nothing really celebrating the work in that space. So yeah, we launched the Publisher Podcast Awards last year. We held the ceremony on March the 4th, which was, I remember thinking, people were saying at the time, of course we'll turn up, like coronavirus is just, they're making a massive fuss over nothing, and then look where we are now. And now we're just focused on sharing lessons from all of those podcasts and helping publishers who've got them or who want to launch them really get better at them, which ties into our wider mission at Media Voices, which is that we just want to help businesses and bring the lessons from all around the media world into one place.
Yeah, I mean, I was at those awards. It was very much the last event I think I attended before coronavirus happened. So, I mean, it was a fantastic evening. Thank you very much for putting it on. I wanted to ask about your kind of inspiration. What's your kind of favorite media brands? What do you look to for inspiration when you're thinking about your own work?
It's difficult because we, even on a weekly basis, I talk to people from, people like Business Insider that I spoke to just a couple of weeks ago, huge organizations, to really, really niche media businesses. But I actually have a real admiration for the smaller brands and the ones that just, they don't necessarily make the headlines. They're not always written about by places like Digijay, but they just do really brilliant things. I was talking to Black Ballad literally just last week, and what they do with such a small team and the decisions they make with memberships, they took decisions to do that back in 2016 against all advice. And to look at small stories like that and to be able to elevate them is really inspiring to me. And it kind of makes us think, like, if they can do it, we can do it.
You've been hosting a number of Congress sessions for us over the last month and doing an excellent job of that, of course. And what are the kind of 3 key things that you've taken from the sessions you've hosted in terms of learnings?
Yeah, I don't like being on this side of the questions.
That's the first one. Okay, you get 2 more.
I think it's difficult to choose because I think I've hosted sort of 8 sessions now, and they've all been really, really interesting. But for me, there are 3 that stood out, and it was talking to Claudia Sensed at Business Insider about they've got these huge ambitions to get 1 billion uniques a month by 2025, and hearing him talk about how they're going to get there and how they're going to use that to drive all their subscriptions, and also hearing him choose about what goes behind their paywall. It's not necessarily what drives subscriptions, it's what they think will be of value to a business was really interesting. Speaking to Scott Lamb, who is ex-BuzzFeed and is currently at Medium, on Monday, and again, his insights into the relationship between platforms and publishers and what they're trying to do at Medium with building something that will work for individual creators and publishers was really, really interesting. I don't necessarily know if they've quite cracked it yet, but I think that they're certainly close. And then just from a personal perspective, Connie Olwatch was fascinating. She's a Kenyan stylist, and she talked quite a lot about managing multiple strands of a career and building your brand within media that's not necessarily a linear career path. So for me, those are the 3 particularly most interesting sessions.
And more generally in the kind of media space, what are the trends that you're looking forward to in the year ahead? You're going to say podcasting, aren't you? You have to say podcasting.
I'm going to classify it more widely as audio. I think there's a lot of work publishers are doing in the audio space, things like audio articles that are particularly coming out in the last couple of months that are really, really interesting. Yes, podcasting is a massive part of that, and we've already opened entries for the awards this year and already seeing some of the things that are coming in. I'm really, really excited for next year. But I think that's probably going to be not clouded, but it's certainly going to be surrounded by a lot of businesses kind of working out how to pick themselves up from coronavirus and working out what's going to have a long-term effect and what will eventually be able to get back to normal. Things like seeing what's happened to events has been really, really gutting because they were such a good stream for publishers, and there were so many that were doing really well. And that's not an industry trend that was being accelerated. That's just bad luck that it happened to fall that way with the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask a question?
Of course, please. Yeah.
So yes, I'm just curious to know what podcasts, what do you listen to? What would you advise, sort of media related and non-media related?
Gosh, yeah, so this is a question I get asked a lot, but I've had to listen to so many that actually making them regular is quite a challenge. So I think some of the highlights for me last year were, I thought the Week's podcast was brilliant. They do the Week Unwrapped, which is where they go behind the scenes of the news stories that maybe you wouldn't necessarily have made headlines. And if you're fed up of Trump, if you're fed up of all the massive stories going on, it's a really good antidote to that. So that was really good, and that's a non-media one. And there was In the Moment podcast, which was they've sadly I think they're still on hiatus with coronavirus, but that's a real sort of mindfulness, just focusing on mental health and taking a moment to be calm. That's one of the media's podcasts. And then media related, I mean, there are so many. FIPP have got a very good podcast, I hear.
Thank you very much.
So yeah.
One of the presenters might be sitting here today.
I know. I've always enjoyed the ones that FIPP have done. Digiday, places like Pugpig are actually doing some quite interesting podcasts. He did a brilliant two-parter with Katie Bannock-Smith a couple of weeks ago, and that was a very interesting lesson. So I sort of dip in and out of quite a lot of them.
Oh, thank you.
I want you to go back in time and imagine your 18-year-old self. What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self, knowing what you know now about your career in the industry?
Teaching is not a viable career path. I very much, I'm in media. That's not exactly a
Yeah.
Yeah. Teaching's probably better right now, isn't it?
Yeah. I've got news for you, actually.
Yeah.
No, I've got friends who are teachers, and I'd rather be where I am now than in teaching. No, I think you push this idea when you're a teenager that you go to university and then you will decide on a career, and that will be your career for the next 40 years. And I know so few people with a linear career anymore, and especially in the media space. If you're in journalism, your job is no longer secure. Even if you're in the business side of it, your job is no longer secure. With the media briefing, I was made redundant, and it was hard not to take that personally, but that is just media. And I've always enjoyed keeping multiple plates spinning, like getting involved in lots of different projects. So I think for me, it doesn't have to be a linear career. You can do lots of different things, and that is fine, and that is a perfectly viable career path. And I would also say, to anybody looking at getting into the industry, take every opportunity to learn. There are so many resources out there. There are so many people in the industry commenting on the industry, studies, reports, everything. Whether you're working in ads or editorial, the more you can learn about the industry you're in, the better prepared I think you are for what's going to come up in the future.
Absolutely. Well, we asked Rachel, so we're going to ask you as well. You're joining the FIPP board. What do you hope to contribute to that group?
I would also copy her answer that I also hope to learn. But no, I think I'm really looking forward to bringing some of the lessons and insights from a lot of the people I speak to on the podcast. Again, there's quite a lot of people from businesses that are quite small that don't necessarily get airtime. So as part of that, and as part of the wider media analysis work I do and the people that I speak to, I'm hoping to bring some of the insight from that and from the wider business.
Fantastic. Well, Esther, Rachel, congratulations once again on your awards. Absolutely amazing job to be the overall winners for this year. You will, of course, get your trophies very soon. And if you're watching and you want to learn more about our winners, then we will be doing an in-depth interview with both of them that will be on FIPP.com very, very soon. Which they're both looking slightly terrified at that idea, but that'll be fine. It's all part of the deal.
Sorry, Esther.
For those of you who didn't win this year, congratulations on entering, congratulations on getting this far, being shortlisted. The quality of entries was incredibly high this year. You've all done a fantastic job. It's great to see so much talent out there in the industry. I would encourage everybody who entered this year to enter again next year. Such was the quality of entries that a little nudge in the right direction, and you too could be our overall winner in 2021. We thank again, of course, our sponsors UPM for their support for not only these Rising Stars Awards, but also the Insight Awards, which are coming up next month in October, and for their support of FIPP more generally. They've been fantastic partners of ours for a number of years now, and we thank them for that support. We will be back at midday, where we'll be doing an interview, or playing out an interview that I did yesterday with Graham Stewart, the Minister for Exports here in the UK. And then I hope you will join us live at 1 o'clock when we have the closing session for this year's FIPP Congress. While we wait for that, though, thank you very much for joining this session. Congratulations again to all our winners, and we will see you all very soon.